Hello everyone and welcome to WGBS TV Live, brought to you by SupermanHomepage.com, the #1 Superman fan site in the world. My name is Steve Eunice. In this, our August 14th, 2018 show, we're going to be covering a range of topics, including speaking about the death of Superman animated movie. We're going to be talking about the latest Superman comic books and so much more. Now, we're also going to be turning to you to take your questions and comments on any particular Superman topic you would like to discuss. And to let you know how all that works, let me introduce you to my co-host, Michael Bailey. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Steve. Now, because this show is about Superman, and we want to hear from Superman fans from across the planet Houston, we want to hear from you if you are watching this show live. To do this, you need Skype. Open Skype, search for Superman Homepage, and message us that you'd like to be part of the show. We try to get to callers during the second half of the show, so be patient, and we will try to get to you if we can. Also, please wait for us to react to your messages and let us call you. And if you do get on the air, please lower the volume on your speakers as we are on a delay.
Yes, and now for those of you who are tuning in live via Facebook to watch tonight's show, below that video or next to that video, we invite you to post your comments and ask questions. Michael and I will keep an eye on those comments throughout the show and we'll react to them as necessary. And a huge thank you to our sponsors and patrons, Tina Murray, Douglas Meacham, and Henry Bernstein. We appreciate your support. Well, Michael, it's been a relatively quiet week in the world of Superman. What's been happening on your end? What's new for news for you?
Nothing really. Just prepping for Dragon Con, getting images and stuff together for the presentations that I'll be part of.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the panels I'll have like visual aids basically. So it's a lot of brushing up on Lois and Clark and Superman the movie and finding things out about the creation of the death of Superman that I did not know thanks to a Sci-Fi Wire article.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the things, this is something I learned this week.
Okay.
There's always been this perception that Warner Brothers was the one that forced DC Comics to wait for the wedding on the show that would eventually become Lois and Clark. That's not the case. Mike Carlin revealed in that Sci-Fi Wire article that he and Jeanette Kahn were the ones that pitched the show, and they were the ones that decided to have the comics, the marriage happen in the comics and the TV show simultaneously.
Okay.
So it was actually within DC Comics that did that. Basically, the idea was, hey, if the show dies, we can marry him whenever we want to.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Cool. Well, there you go. You learn something new every day.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Now, do you want to let fans in on the what you've got coming up for Dragon Con? When is it? And some of the panels that you'll be part of.
Dragon Con is Labor Day weekend here in Atlanta. Every Labor Day weekend for almost 20 years now. And this year, since Superman is turning 80, two of the tracks, which are the different bits of programming the show has, are doing Superman-themed panels. So these are the rule with Dragon Con is no panel is set in stone until after it's over. But for the moment, I am going to be part of a Superman the movie panel. We're going to be celebrating the 40th anniversary.
Cool.
There's going to be a Lois and Clark panel.
Mm-hmm.
If everything works out, I will be moderating a panel with some creators, including Gail Simone.
Cool.
And Alex Sinclair, who's the current colorist on Superman, is going to be on that. Matthew Clark, who drew some Adventures of Superman, and an artist named Tom Zoller, who did a series called Love and Capes, which was basically a love letter to Superman.
Okay.
And if everything works out, also Monday, which is the last day of the con, I will be doing by myself. They may throw some other people on there, but for the moment it's just me. A 80-year retrospective of Superman in an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, at that point I went, challenge accepted. I've been waiting for this my entire life. So it's going to be fun. I'm on some other panels too, one involving the Hulk and V and other things. But those are the Superman related ones, and it's actually kind of cool that this year every year we talk about me going to DragonCon. This is like one of the first years where we're like, hey, there's actually Superman stuff. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Nice. Well, you'll have to give the Superman homepage a plug whenever you can in any of those panels.
Oh, I have a graphic at the ready.
Oh, cool. Very nice. So folks, if you're in the area and DragonCon is on your wish list, then this is the year to go with Superman's 80th anniversary, the movie's 40th anniversary, and Michael doing so many panels or participating and hosting so many panels. It sounds like it'll be a lot of fun.
Yes, a lot of work, but a lot of fun.
I was going to say a lot of hard work, but a lot of fun. So very cool. Well, let's get into tonight's topics, and we like to start with movie news. And you recently, this past week, submitted your own review of the Death of Superman animated movie, which I've watched and absolutely agreed with your review. Gave it a 5 out of 5. My Big Blue Report, the newsletter that I send out twice monthly, which will be going out to subscribers first thing tomorrow morning, so roughly in a couple of hours, is also me giving my thoughts, especially on some of the big questions that we had about the movie before its release, after the trailer was released. Things like, what continuity it is in, why is he wearing the new 52 costume, is it really a faithful adaptation of the comic book story, what happened to the Wonder Woman and Superman relationship, all those kinds of things were big questions that were on fans' lips before the movie came out. And my column that I've written in this edition of the Big Blue Report newsletter that you'll be receiving in your email box tackles some of those, and my thoughts on the movie itself, which I was really impressed that you were impressed, because obviously you're a big fan of this particular storyline, and being the epic story that it was back in the comic books, to see that you were pleased and extremely happy with the movie, I think goes a long way to making a lot of fans go, okay, Michael likes it, it must be good.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I go that far, but no, it was one of those things where I was a little nervous, because it's not that Superman Doomsday was bad. In fact, when I was writing the review for this one, I was looking in my archives and I was like, hey, I wrote the one for review for Superman Doomsday too, so I kind of reviewed it so I didn't contradict myself, basically. And I was like, no, I liked it at the time. I liked it for what it was, but as an adaptation of that story, it was really light. It was more like, okay, let's take Doomsday and Superman and them fighting and him dying and go in a completely different direction. Yeah. Where this one, especially since they're doing it over 2 films with The Reign coming up next, they were able to kind of focus on the death. And with that, they were able to kind of make it more emotional than it was in Superman Doomsday. And my favorite part was kind of spotting where they were adapting but changing. It's just like, oh, he's fighting the Justice League before he deals with Superman, and Superman's not there, and Doomsday just completely... This isn't a spoiler, folks. Doomsday decimates the Justice League. I think my favorite part of that was Batman didn't try to go toe-to-toe with him. That would have... I just would have driven me crazy. But, no, it's just like one of those things where they got so many things right that really my only problem was the costume. And frankly, I don't think the costume looked too bad, considering what it was. Considering I really don't care for the new 52 costume. So I'm glad you liked it too, because I know in many ways the Death and Return to Superman was like your intro to Superman as a reader.
Yeah, indeed. It was definitely my story that got me into it. As a lot of people know already, I found the novelization of the Death of Superman story, and that, having read that, started seeking out comic book stores, and pretty much that's where it all kicked off for me. Even though I'd been a Superman fan as a kid, watched the Christopher Reeve movies, watched the Super Friends cartoons on Saturday morning cartoon on television, I was a Superman fan, but this is what started me being a collector and getting online and looking at everything. And so it was a big story for me, and I'm really pleased with this adaptation. I think the animated film is very emotional. It's action-packed. It's dramatic. It's all those things. And as you'll read in my column in my Big Blue Report newsletter, the fact that it's set in this established continuity adds to that, because of the fact that now all these characters have been established, we've grown with them, we feel for them, so once they are decimated by Doomsday and Superman does die in this film, the fact that we've known these characters over a number of films and gotten to understand who they are makes that impact more dramatic and more emotional. And so I think that was a good choice, rather than just making it a standalone film where you don't really have an established relationship between these characters.
Yeah, and I was listening to a podcast that had a kind of a round table with some of the people behind the scenes, and it was either the writer or one of the producers said originally they weren't going to have it be part of the New 52 continuity. It was going to be its own thing, but higher-ups decided to have it as part of that. And like you, I think that actually legitimizes, this movie legitimizes everything that came before it for me. I know a lot of people like these movies, but it seems to me like, oh, this is a universe that I can like, instead of my opinion of Justice League War was, wow, that wasn't all that good.
And yeah, we have seen this story before. It has been told over and over, but this is, as we've been saying, is a faithful adaptation of that story. But more importantly for me, it leads to the sequel, which is the Reign of the Superman, which we haven't seen in animated form. We haven't seen, this version of Superboy, Steel, the Cyborg Superman, Eradicator. We haven't seen all that being told in an animated movie format, which I think is very exciting. But even more so than that, a triumphant return of Superman, where his death is felt more so because of the length of time, where in the Superman Doomsday movie it was kind of dealt with pretty quickly. Here we get to see how the world reacts to not having Superman, and then his triumphant return will be even more impactful once he does return, and maybe we'll see him in a classic costume, who knows.
Yeah, I think everybody's hoping for that. And one of the other things that was addressed in that roundtable, which is actually something we said here, is that the reason he's in the New 52 costume is the lead time on the development of these things. It takes a while to animate 80 minutes worth of, especially action. So they were probably well into production on this before they decided to change. Yeah. So they probably decided to do, way before they decided to change the costume back. Yeah. So I think we all have to, because everything is so immediate now, with, and also the fact that they announce things like 3 years ahead of time, I think we get a really wonky perspective on what it's like for these films to be developed. Because we're not just talking like three guys in a room. Yeah. It's hundreds of people working on this. So
now, earlier somebody asked about you doing a commentary with Jeffrey Taylor from Crisis to Crisis thing. Are you still planning on doing that?
Yes, we're just trying to work out the schedule. Things got a little wonky. Our original plan was actually to have one on the day it was released, but that just didn't work out. So we're probably going to be recording that, hopefully, if everything works out, next week.
Okay. So look forward to that, folks. If you're from Crisis to Crisis fan, which is Michael and Jeffrey's podcast, they will be doing a commentary on the Death of Superman animated movie. All right, well, let's push on. And speaking of animated movies, Warner Brothers Animation announced that they're coming out with a commemorative edition of Justice League Throne of Atlantis. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, it's coming out in a 4K presentation, so Ultra HD presentation. It will have a new documentary on it, I believe, titled Aquaman the New King, a new featurette. An immersive look at Arthur Curry's evolution from Guardian of the Ocean to the King of Atlantis and key members of the Justice League. I guess this is coming out because there's an Aquaman movie coming out.
Yeah, more than likely. I still haven't watched it. I actually, after watching Death of Superman, I pulled out all the Justice League movies that I've purchased but haven't watched yet. So, but anytime they do one of these commemorative editions, it's because they just want to kind of cash in on something that is going to be coming out. So that makes perfect sense.
So that's the animated movie coming out, Justice League Throne of Atlantis, a commemorative edition. It will be out on Blu-ray Combo Pack, Ultra HD Blu-ray Combo Pack, and digital starting November 13th, so later this year. I haven't watched it either. If it doesn't involve Superman too much, it kind of skips by my my list of to-do things. But it's the trailers there. We played a little bit of it. So if you're keen, that's coming out November 13th. Look for it on the Superman homepage when it's available for pre-orders. But beyond that, the only other movie news we have, and it's very light on this week, is the sad news that, according to the coroner, Margo Kidder's death has officially been ruled as a suicide. She died as a result of self-inflicted drug and alcohol overdose.
Yeah, this is going to sound harsh. It's not. I don't think many people are surprised by that. But I think what this does is, once again, open up the conversation about mental illness and suicide. And, there's a stigma with this, where if somebody kills themselves, suddenly we're vilifying them, and it's just not that simple. So, she battled that for pretty much as long as I can remember hearing about Margo Kidder. So I'm not surprised, but still very sad, and I'm kind of hoping that if anything good can come from this, is that people who need to get help will get help.
Yes, exactly.
And won't be at that point where they're having to take their own life. So it just breaks my heart to read that.
Yeah, and it's so true. And I think her daughter, Maggie McGuane, said it best in her statement, saying it's a big relief that the truth is out there because it's important to be open and honest, so there's no cloud of shame in dealing with this. And I think that's the message that needs to go out there, is that no matter what problems you're facing, how bad you think things are getting, whether you're struggling with mental health or you're struggling with bullying or whatever the case may be in your life, that there's always someone to reach out, always someone willing to help. And if it's professional help, there are lines that you can call. If it's family members that you can turn to, friends or whatever, there's always help out there that you can seek. And there's no shame in putting your hand up and saying, "Hey, I need a hand here. Give me some help."
Yeah, and different countries deal with mental health differently. As somebody who lives in the United States, we, as a country, have to get a lot better with how we deal with mental health and helping people when they need it. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, it's also very expensive because we're one of the few industrialized nations that still does not have some form of universal health care, but I'm not going to get on that soapbox right now. There are so many resources now, phone numbers that you can call, even if you don't have somebody like in your life. There are people out there that want to help.
Yeah, exactly. And it's an ongoing battle. I mean, it's not something that can just be fixed with a pill or with with one session of therapy or whatever. It's an ongoing battle, as Margo Kidder is proof. She was a big advocate for mental health issues, and having suffered with her own mental battles, and obviously continued on through her whole life. So it's something that is it has to be managed over an ongoing process. But we send our thoughts and prayers out to her family and friends, and she's a great loss no matter how her death came about. And we can only learn from her experience.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's move on to the TV side of the news cycle. And again, it's very light on this week as far as anything of great importance. But the Teen Choice Awards aired on Fox this week, and while the Justice League movie, Henry Cavill himself were nominated, Only the Supergirl TV show came out with any awards, and it was only just one of those awards. Melissa Benoist took home the prize of Action TV Actress. She was nominated against other Action TV actresses, but what came out on top as the winner this time around.
Yeah, and very well deserved. Season 3 was fantastic. So I'm very glad that she did win the Teen Choice Awards, and I think it's kind of cool that a super character is winning these things again.
Yeah, exactly. And the show was nominated for Action TV Show, but it didn't to win that. And Chris Wood, who played Monel, was also up for Action TV Actor, but he lost out on that category as well. And if you do want to see the entire list of Teen Choice 2018 winners, then you can head to fox.com for all the details about the 2018 Teen Choice Award. So congratulations to Melissa Benoist on winning that award. I don't think she was there in person. I think last year she was there, and I think she accepted an award from Grant Gustin, who plays the Flash. But I haven't seen photos of her being there this year. Obviously, probably too tied up both with filming Supergirl and with her Broadway musical that she's a part of as well, called Beautiful.
Yeah, I think we just get like the first photo of her on the set, or an on-set photo this past week, so that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Now, for UK fans, there's some good news, and it's surprising it's taken this long. The TV show Krypton, which aired on Sci-Fi both there in the US and here in Australia and other places around the world, and we've already seen the entire first season. Well, most of the actors in the show were British, yet British people haven't been able to see the show as of yet. The show will premiere on Sunday, August 19th, so this coming Sunday on Channel E4. So UK fans, rejoice. It's coming to your TV stations, TV sets quite soon.
Yeah, this is the weird thing about rights and that sort of thing, is that you always have like these kind of weird like delays. I mean, you used to have the same problem with Smallville, if I'm remembering correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that time.
So yeah, it's kind of unfortunate, but at the end of the day, I guess that's just how these things work.
And it was funny, Cameron Cuff on Twitter posted the announcement and said, "Now maybe my friends at home will believe me when I said I booked a gig, a big time acting gig."
Yeah, he's just got such a great attitude about things.
Yeah, he seems like a really cool guy and a big Superman and comic book fan. He's always tweeting about different things that are going on in the world and reacting to them just like fans, like we do as fans. So good on him for being as heavily involved as he is. And I hope UK fans really enjoy the Krypton TV series as much as we did. And that Season 2 doesn't take as long for them as Season 1 did.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, we're almost at the halfway point of tonight's show, so we're going to take a quick break and then come back on the flip side to talk about comic books, and we have a few things to discuss there. So we'll be back right after these messages. Don't go away.
We'll be back in a moment with the exciting climax of today's episode. So stand by.
Look, up in the sky.
It's a bird.
It's a plane. No, it's SupermanHomepage.com, the #1 Superman fan site in the world. SupermanHomepage.com, covering the world of Superman from the 1930s to today. News, reviews, rumors, and reports. SupermanHomepage.com for all your Superman comics, TV shows, movies, cartoons, radio shows, and more. Everything you ever wanted to know about the Man of Steel and more. SupermanHomepage.com.
Thanks, Superman Homepage, for all the support over the years. I really appreciate it.
I'm Matt Bomer. I'm the voice of Superman in Superman Unbound, and this is the Superman Homepage.
Right here on Superman Homepage.
Coming from the farthest reaches of the universe to challenge the worst villains on Earth are the most powerful heroes ever in the battle of the Superpowers Collection. Can it be the Supermobile on the attack, the Lexor 7 armed with kryptonite? Will the Supermobile repel those deadly rays?
You bet. Ready for battle. Activate RAM.
New from Kenner's Superpowers Collection. Vehicles and figures with power action, each sold separately. Flying lessons for Penguin, fish bait for Luther. Can the Supermobile defeat the Lexor 7? You decide.
Now we're back on WGBS TV Live, where Michael is reaching for some action figures. Kenner action figures.
Yes, the ones we just saw the commercial for.
Very cool. I think I've got those ones on my shelf too, just out of reach. But yeah, cool advertising, some retro toys there, a retro commercial showing what we as fans grew up with as far as collecting was concerned.
Oh, Superpowers was
huge.
That was my Christmas of '85.
Wow.
I had I had different themes for my Christmases. Some were Star Wars, some were He-Man. But '85 and '86 was Superpowers, and between Christmases and birthdays and just the occasional begging of my parents, I managed to acquire a pretty decent collection of the figures that are now all lost to the ages. But I've pretty much been able to kind of get most of them back. Somewhere in this house, I have the Supermobile and the Lexor 7, which I had the Supermobile as a kid, but not the Lexor 7. But those things are now getting more and more expensive because they're getting older and older. So
true. All right, well, as I said before the break, we're going to talk comic books, and we've both had a read of Superman #2, which came out on August 8th. And the reviewer, Adam DeChannel, on the Superman homepage gave it a 4 out of 5, saying, story progression was nil, but character examination, both of Clark and Rogol Zaar, was intriguing. What did you think of this particular storyline, continuation of this storyline?
I get what Adam is saying there about story progression, but I'm so used to Brian Michael Bendis' writing style that this feels right in line. I was kind of thinking that as I was reading the issue, that we're not really getting further into the story, but what we are getting is a lot of examination of Superman himself, and that little bit at the beginning showing Rogol Zaar, hundreds of years ago or whatever, fighting the Tamaranians, which is Starfire's race, was interesting. And just having Superman just kind of go through this whole thing of Green Arrow saying, "Isn't your life hell?" And the explanation behind that, between that and the beautiful artwork, I was just like, I'm okay with this. If he's going to take his time and just kind of stretch this out, but we're going to get this kind of, some would call navel-gazing of Superman and his character, since we haven't gotten that, as much over the past few years. I'm totally down with it. And the Nuclear Man fight was hysterical.
It was very brutal, wasn't it? It was, blink and you'll miss it kind of stuff, but, all the fans were such hoo-ha over the fact that Nuclear Man was going to be in this book, and, people, just going off about Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, and it's like, just read the story and you'll actually understand, how where it comes in, and it's a really good, kind of action piece that's thrown in there, and it kind of just adds to Rogol Zaar's threat level, if you like. But a really good story. There was a little bit of a colouring gaff in there. If you've been following on Twitter, it's supposed to be Barry Allen as the Flash in there, but he turns up once he takes his helmet headgear thing off. That's red hair, which is more in line with a different Flash, the Wally West. But it's definitely Barry Allen. It was just the colorization issue.
Yeah, and that happens from time to time. Though, if you only saw that last page, it's just like a little confusing.
Yeah.
But, these things happen. I'm sure they'll fix it once we get to the hardcover and the trade paperback.
Yeah, more than likely.
So they may even fix the digital edition. I don't know. I don't know if they'd want to put the money into that, but that's just really just switching out a page. And you probably have this too. Every once in a while, you open up a comic and it says, "There's an updated version of this.
Yeah.
Would you like to download that now?" So
yeah, that may happen if you open up Superman 2 down the track. So a really good story. Really loving the what Brian Michael Bendis is doing with this particular story. Earth being in the Phantom Zone. How did that happen? How are they going to get out? It's kind of just plodding along at the moment, but it's all about how the characters are reacting to it that is really intriguing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the Earth getting transported into the Phantom Zone is a plot. How people react to it is the story. So I think he's bringing both of those together nicely.
Mm-hmm. Going back to the action figure question or topic, Justin in the chat room or in the comments asks if you have the Hall of Justice from that series.
I did. I don't anymore. Okay. But that Christmas, I'm not trying to brag, but it was awesome. I got the Hall of Justice, the Supermobile, the Batmobile, like bunch of the heroes, Darkseid, Desaad. Wow. It was just, and that's how it was with my family. We weren't money bags, but Christmas was where we got the big presents. And you got to remember, figures back then were like, $3 a piece. So it's not like it was.
Didn't break the bank.
So really what I got, if you added it all up, it really wouldn't have been that expensive. But when you're a kid and you get all those toys, and here's the deep, dark secret, I was more of a Batman kid at the time, so getting the Batmobile was my big thing. But, I really wish I could dig up the pictures. There are pictures of me with those toys somewhere in the family archives, so I need to find those at some point.
Those out.
Mm-hmm.
Chris asking, what shirt are you wearing? It looks like just like a Man of Steel shirt, isn't it?
Yeah, this was because I've been dropping some weight. I've been digging some old shirts out that were, and it's still a little tight, but I put it on tonight and was like, wow, this actually fits a lot better than it did a year ago. But this is a Man of Steel shirt, and it's funny because if I stood up, it's the one that has the stomach muscles on it.
Right, the abs.
So if I'm in kind of like a dark room, it's much more slimming because of that. So, but maybe I could stand up a bit and kind of give more of a shot of it. I can't really back up too much more, but yeah, it's one of the ones that was at Walmart when Man of Steel came out, and I bought like 3 or 4 of them. Nice.
Well, if anyone cares, I'm wearing the Smallville leather jacket from the TV series. It's so stiff I can barely move my arms in it, but it's nice and warm. All right, the other sorry, you were going to say?
I was about to say, when you start your biking career and start riding your motorcycle all over the place, that'll stretch out a little bit for you.
Yeah, well, I don't have to worry about my hair blowing in the wind, so I could start any time I wanted. All right, well, the other comic book that came out this past week was Supergirl number 21. The book is back after a bit of a break. It, I don't think you've read it, but Supergirl number 21 is The Killers of Krypton Part 1, with new writer Mark Andreyko taking on the writing duties, and our reviewer Glenn J. Clark gave it a 4 out of 5, saying that he said, "This was a good prologue to what I hope is an enjoyable run on Supergirl. It kind of sets things up, gets us in motion, and it is a really intriguing new direction that they're taking Supergirl. It ties in with everything that you've been reading with Brian Michael Bendis' Man of Steel, and everything that's happened with Rogol Zaar and Supergirl's involvement there, and her reaction to Kandor having been destroyed, the Bottled City. So now she's going on a quest to find out what's going on, what's the story behind it, what can she find out about Rogol Zaar and the destruction of Krypton, and whether it's a mandate by Brian Michael Bendis to get Supergirl off planet so that Superman is the only super family member because she takes Krypto with her. I don't know, but it's an interesting way to take on the Supergirl story to see her emotional reaction to what has happened so far.
And I think, I don't know if we talked about this last week. I feel like maybe we touched on it, but I think it's really neat that they're taking her in this direction and having it tied to the Superman books, but still being on its own.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the things about Rebirth, as much as I loved just about everything they did, there was this kind of disparity in all the Superman books. Especially before they merged everything together. Superwoman, I don't think Superwoman ever recovered from when they did the storyline where they revealed what happened. But Supergirl seemed to be kind of just doing like TV light in the comic book version. The stories were good, but it just didn't feel like it's something on its own, whereas here, now it feels like she's part of his world, but still maintaining her own identity. And that cover, I like that costume a lot. I think it's a neat take on the Supergirl costume. I don't know what's happening with that. Is that a sash or what? But I'm figuring out a way to read this book because it has my attention now.
And it almost feels like the triangle titles, the numbering where the books are tied in, but they're telling their own story, and Supergirl is fitting into that continuity as if it's another Superman book, but a Supergirl book that's still within the same storylines and still dealing with the same issues that are going on in the main titles.
Yeah, I mean, the Bat books over the years have kind of gone in and out of having everything kind of connected, or feeling like it's connected than not. I think the Super books haven't felt it, and it's time for us to have that again.
Yeah, agreed. All right, well, let's look ahead at this week's books that are coming out, and just grabbing the graphics now for you. One of them I didn't have, which I have since grabbed a hold of, and I will pull that up for everyone now, and that is Injustice 2 number 71 digital comic that is out this week. Also out this week is the Doomsday Clock number 1 4th printing. I didn't know that they had that many printing. So that's out this week, as is Doomsday Clock number 2 3rd printing out this week. Also, Injustice 2 number 32 print edition is out this week, so if you're getting the print editions of those, that's out this week, and it has been it's coming towards an end, so it has been pretty good lately. Injustice 2, if you're into that book. Injustice versus Masters of the Universe 2. As a He-Man and Superman fan, Michael, I'm not sure if you're picking up on this one.
I was kind of burned about the last one,
Right.
So I think, and it is the Injustice Superman. So again, I'm not getting the real Superman teaming up with He-Man like we did back in the '80s. So, but I'm sure it's fun.
It's a 6-issue miniseries.
Yeah, it's written by Tim Seeley, or I think that's his name, or
Seeley.
Seeley. And he's excellent. So I'm sure it's written very well.
Also out this week is Justice League number 6, and that comes in a variant cover by Jim Lee of Green Lantern, John Stewart Green Lantern. It also it's available in a pencil edition of that same graphic. So those are the books that are out this week if you're a Superman fan. Also out, I didn't show you the graphic, is Chapter 3 of the Death of Superman digital comic book. Kind of keep forgetting about that one because it doesn't get much publicity, but I've read the first 2 chapters, and it's weird because you're thinking of comic books, you're thinking of the Death of Superman comic book stories, but it's a comic book story of the animated film continuity. And Superman's wearing the New 52 costume, and the artwork interior artwork isn't fantastic, but the stories nevertheless are still intriguing.
That first issue, I haven't read the second one yet. The third one I'll have tomorrow because I'm subscribing to it. But that first one felt like it was set right after Grant Morrison's run on Action Comics. So it like you said, it's weird because it's a comic, but it's based on the movie animated universe. But the movie animated universe is based on the New 52. And we've been out of the New 52 for like 2 years now, so what's going on here?
It is weird. I mean, I understand what they're doing. These are stories that from the animated movie that you haven't read in a comic book form, showing you what Superman was doing before he actually met up with Doomsday in the movie and why he was distracted and doing other things and, behind the scenes kinds of things, off-screen stories. But it is still weird reading a comic book from a movie about a comic book, but in another comic book universe. So.
Yeah, I mean, them doing versions of the animated stuff. I mean, Superman Adventures ran for over 40 issues, and that was actually sometimes the best Superman book out the month it came out. So, I'm glad that they're doing it. They're just not promoting it at all.
Yeah, that's so true.
And you would think that they have a pretty... I don't know what the numbers Death of Superman is doing, but I have really not seen anybody saying that they were truly disappointed. I mean, like every once in a while, somebody will complain, but I think it's doing very well. Well, yeah, that is the internet. But, you would think that if you were going to do that, you would promote it a little heavier, but they didn't really promote the Smallville Season 11 book either. It's like these digital firsts don't get the marketing that the main books get, and that's kind of weird if you want to develop a digital audience that you would do that.
And I know they're going to collect it in a print edition, which they'll probably then market pretty heavily, but as you say, digital readers aren't second-rate citizens. They're still buying comic books. Yeah. So, promote it to them.
You're paying just as much as the guys getting it off the shelf, so.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, it's obvious that an Aquaman movie is coming out because Aquaman, with as we've already said in this show tonight, is getting, being front and center in everything they're doing. And today, DC Comics announced plans for an Aquaman Justice League Drowned Earth storyline coming up. It's like a big crossover event. It'll have Justice League Aquaman Drowned Earth #1, Aquaman Justice League Drowned Earth. There'll be the Aquaman book, the Justice League book. They'll all be tying in together. And it pretty much says, let me read it. It says here, the saga begins with Justice League Aquaman Drowned Earth #1 by Tinian IV with Porter with art, on sale October 31st. This 48-page one-shot introduces the Ocean Lords, ancient and powerful deities with an axe to grind against both Aquaman and Wonder Woman, and a plan to flood the world. As the rest of the Justice League races to stop the waters from rising, Arthur faces off against his nemesis Black Manta in a must-win battle if he is to retain his connection to the world's oceans.
Okay, I feel like they've been announcing this for years. I thought this was going to be something from the New 52, if I'm remembering. It was like right at the end of Throne of Atlantis, that in Aquaman they had like a preview page, because Jeff Johns used to do that, where he would have like the last page of the story, have 3 panels that preview something that's coming up. And I swear they announced this back then, but it's DC has a tendency to kind of announce something 15 years ahead of time, and then not follow through on it. I mean, Multiversity, the Grant Morrison series was like almost a decade in the making. So, but you got an Aquaman movie coming out. Yeah, it's a good time to have a Aquaman centric crossover coming out. So, it might be good.
What is Superman wearing in that yellow cover?
I have no idea.
It looks like a jacket.
It looks like it's like they gave him Atlantean armor.
Well, that explains. I mean, the Flash has got a lobster arm.
Yeah. So, man, you ever notice that in these things, Superman never comes out like on top? It's like seemed in metal. He got a new. If I'm remembering the imagery, it was just like kind of a weird costume for him for a little bit too. So now, whatever.
So this is a new big crossover event coming out later this year, October 31st actually. It will tie in with Justice League, which comes out Justice League 11, November 7th, Justice League 12, November 21st, and so on and so forth. So it's going to be an ongoing thing. November 28th will be the 48-page Aquaman Justice League Round Earth #1. So they just flip the names around. And so we'll start off with Justice League Aquaman and then finish off with Aquaman Justice League. So that is what's coming out in the comic books in regards to the Justice League comic books with Aquaman at the lead. Yes, Justin, it looks like Superman is wearing my biker jacket in that cover. All right. The other news, if you're a fan in Brazil, is that Justice League will be teaming up with, I guess it's Team of Monica or Turma de Monica. So anyone who speaks Spanish, or is it Portuguese? I'm not sure. One or the other. It's a crossover event that will be taking place for fans in Brazil. Here are the pieces of artwork. Just grabbing those for you right there. So let's just blow that up quickly for you. And it's just a 2-issue run. It'll be the first edition will be in various magazines, but both issues, issue 1 and issue 2, will be published in the November editions of the actual magazine itself, or comic book itself, which I believe, just trying to scan through, is going to be titled Monica Meets the Justice League, Turma de Monica Meets the Justice League, and it says, for almost 60 years, it says the artist, for almost 60 years my comics have entertained many generations of Brazilian readers. Now all of them, just like me, will enjoy this very special moment, the crossover of Monica and her friends with DC Comics superheroes. And it's an interesting collaboration.
I'm really liking the Wonder Woman costume in these shots.
Yeah, with the cape.
It's kind of an interesting thing. But Superman's, there he is, front and center, all time.
Yeah. So, Batman's almost got a smile on his face.
Yeah, I think that actually is a smile for Batman. I think that counts. I mean, he might be overdoing it at this point, really, with who he is. Yeah. So there you have it. That's a big crossover thing that's happening for fans in Brazil of that particular comic book publication, tying in with the Justice League characters. And if you want to find out more information, you can head to Panini's website, which is www.lojapanini.com.br. So check that out. Well, Michael, I guess we have time for you to do a This Week in History if you're prepared for that. And fans, sorry, before you get into that, if you do want to get on to the last 10 minutes of tonight's program and be a caller and chat with us about anything we've spoken about tonight or any other topic that you'd like to bring to our attention, don't forget, head to Skype and send a message to Superman homepage account saying that you want to be a caller, and we will get you on. We will call you and get you on in the last 10 minutes of this program. All right, Michael, let me play for you This Week in History's thing, or did you want to have something else to say before I play that? I was just about to say, I think somebody's waiting in line, so we can get to them while I'm going through all this.
Okay, here we go.
Come with me now, my son, as we break through the bottom of your earthly confinement, traveling through time and space.
Alrighty, since I can't hear that, I hope I'm not speaking over right now. We have Superman number 125 came out in 1948 this week. Superman in the modern Nostradamus. So I'm sure it's full of a bunch of
Predictive.
A bunch of predictions that'll never come true. 1958, 1968, nothing. Really, nothing Superman-related came out those weeks, which is odd because there was a bunch of Superman books. But in 1978, we have Superman Family number 192, which had a Superboy, Supergirl, Krypto, Jimmy Olsen, Superman, Lois Lane, and Nightwing and Flamebird. The Ordeal of Akbar, which was the secret identity for Flamebird, in case you weren't aware of that. Yeah, those Krypto stories are insane, by the way. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to read them, but they're from Krypto's perspective.
Oh, okay.
And it's just weird. In 1988, during this month, we had Action Comics Weekly number 620. The Superman story was titled Too Late the Hero. He had the 2-page center spread in those issues. In 1998, Superboy number 56 came out this week, and Superman Save the Planet. This was during that really weird time period. It only lasted about a year, but basically the Daily Planet shut down, and Lois and Jimmy went to work for Lex Luthor, and Clark Kent was unemployed. This was all leading up to the Dominus storyline.
Okay.
That would play out over about 6-7 months. And in 2008, Final Crisis Legion of Three Worlds #1, which not only featured 3 versions of Legion, but Superboy Prime and Superman. And I think that, if I'm remembering correctly, that was one of those series that took forever to finally wrap up and was extremely late. In the real world, Phyllis Thaxter, who played Martha Kent in Superman the movie, died in 2012 on August 14th. And August 15th, Scott Cranford, who was the official town Superman of Metropolis, Illinois, from 2000 to 2007, was born in 1967.
Yep, happy birthday, Scott.
And August 16th is traditionally recognized as the birthday of Lois Lane, thanks to I think that's one of those calendars that came out years ago. So, and that's it for This Week in History.
Cool. Thank you very much. All right, we said we have a caller waiting on the line. I guess it's Mark Lax I'm going to bring him in to our program right now. So dialing Mark and getting him onto... I think it's dialing now. Hello, Mark. Can you hear us? Just waiting for Mark to get on the line. There he is. Hello, Mark.
Hey, guys.
How are you?
Hi, how are you? Okay.
Glad to hear it. What's on your mind this week?
No, well, just quickly, the Superman 2.
Yes.
It was a pretty good issue. I enjoyed it. It's me. But, and it's just a way to spend more money to, they could have told it all in Justice League and maybe Aquaman, but no, they have 2 different books coming out, to bookend it, and, it's just extra money. Anytime they can make more money, I guess they do that. But, no, it's a good time right now for Superman. I'm really enjoying it. The Superman and Action.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's great. The both books are being really well written, and I think the comic books are really on track. We've got not just Superman and Action comics going well, but the Supergirl comic book is back. We've got the Adventures of the Super Sons with Thomas and Damian and John. Their adventures continuing. And it just seems to be a really good time to be a fan of the comic books, because there's not much that we can really sink our teeth into on either TV or movies at the moment, other than the Death of Superman animated movie, obviously.
Right. I'm gonna be on that in probably a couple of days. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Looks great. A little bit of the preview of the Reign of the Superman. It just looks awesome.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, it's always good to hear from you, Mark, and there is an interesting interview while I've got you on the line that I think you might enjoy that's about to be posted on the Superman homepage in about just over half an hour. And Michael, I think you'll enjoy this one as well. Peter J. Tomasi, people may not know, but he was the scriptwriter, the guy who wrote the story for the Death of Superman animated movie, and as you know, was a long-time writer on the Superman comic books up until recently. Right. We've grabbed a interview with him, personal video interview from the recent Boston Comic Con. Our reviewer T.A. Hewitt, our reporter, caught up with him and did a really good interview talking about the choices that he made for the Death of Superman animated film, and relating that both to the comics and the original storyline and the New 52 stuff. So a really intriguing interview that I think you'll both enjoy once it goes up on the website in just over half an hour.
I'll be
looking forward to that.
I'll be hanging on for a half hour.
Cool. All right, well, yeah, it's great to hear from you, Mark. I appreciate you calling in, and thanks for continuing to be a supporter of this show.
Of course. All right, guys, you take care.
Okay, you too then. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
That was Mark Lax on the line talking to us.
It seems like every week I have something, and this week I really don't. It's a weird time of the year, just because work has been busy and now it's not. So the one thing I will say, though, is I'm glad we got an interview with Peter J. Tomasi, because I've noticed that people on Twitter, at least one person in particular, was basically decided to take time out of his day to tell him he hated the Death of Superman movie, and I'm like, why would you do that? I mean, why? I mean, just
too much time.
If you don't like it, just
don't like
it. Keep it to yourself. I mean, the man did a good. I mean, I was really excited that he did it. Yeah. Because I think he brought a real comic book sensibility to it.
Yeah. Well, that is pretty much it for tonight's show. I'd like to thank everyone for watching tonight's episode of WGBS TV Live, and thanks to Mark for calling in, and everyone in the comments on Facebook for your participation in tonight's program. And a big thank you to you, my co-host, Michael Bailey. Thanks, Mike.
Pleasure as always, Steve.
A huge thank you to our sponsors and patrons, Tina Murray, Douglas Meacham and Henry Bernstein. If you want to sponsor the Superman homepage, please head to patreon.com/Superman homepage, where you too can be a sponsor for as little as $3. The complete 1 hour video of tonight's show will remain available on the Superman homepage website and our Facebook page if you'd like to watch it back or perhaps miss part of the show. But we'll be back next week on Tuesday, August 21st at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time for another edition of WGBS TV Live. Look forward to talking with you then. Until then, be sure to check out supermanhomepage.com for all your daily news updates on everything surrounding the Man of Steel. I'm Steve Eunice on behalf of myself and Michael and his action figures. Thanks for watching WGBS TV Live, brought to you by supermanhomepage.com.